All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. I see a lot of conversations online. Some people wondering whether the 156-page document has actually been read by the people who are speaking about it. They have. They just have different views, same as you, who's texting in and tweeting. 22422 is the SMS line. At Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Hashtag Daybreak Now. Let's talk about the issue of what you'd have wanted to see as the youth. Agnes, I'll start with you. What would you have wanted to see? Give me a list, a brief list.
Oh, I'm not promising to be brief because the document held so much promise for me.
Yeah.
And I like what the contributor said about judging this thing prematurely. And I feel for me, and I'm looking at this BBI document as both a young person and as a woman. And I say that it holds so much promise because I see we have gains as women. You see the BBI report was very expressive on Article 27, Article 28, Article 29, and they actually suggested numbers, and we see that they suggested that for running mates we should have opposite gender. So I feel like we have won as women, and as a young leader who's aspiring for office, I feel like yes, we need more women there. We have seen devolution win, and you know, for women are affected by devolution. It means that if more money comes to the county governments, if the recommendation of 35% is achieved, we see that the biggest benefactors are actually the young people and the women. I look at issues of biashara mashinani. I feel like these things are going to affect also young women, and these are gains for the youth also. We have health, what Wanja talked about. We have SMEs, and there's a strong recommendation that SMEs should be supported. For the youth, we see that it is heavy on having a multi-sectoral program that is going to mentor youth that are in business. Yeah. We have seen recommendations that is going to give youth access to training, social training. We have education, we have market funds.
So generally you're okay with it?
No, I'm about to get there.
Yeah, because we're really running out of time.
No, it will be very improper not to talk about the gains that this thing has given us. Okay. It is heavy on also building our nation, on ethos and ethics. Yeah. But Trevor, because I am in governance and I'm in the political space, what I really wanted to see and what I feel like should be built, because you know this was just a stock taking, and we are building this document going forward in the 18 months to come. Okay. For me, the separation of powers, I do not quite agree that we should have MPs as ministers. We know our issue right now has always been oversight. And I wonder if we bring back the old model, the old IPPD model, will we have great oversight over our ministries? Right now you see that ministers always battle with the parliamentarians on where and how, and come and tell the people what is it that is going on under your ministry. So I feel like it will be, we will not have strong oversight because MPs cannot oversight themselves. Okay. I really also wanted to see a repeal of CDF and WDF because they are unconstitutional, and I feel like the BBI should have expressly said that. I know right now we need the support of the county governments and we need the support of the MCAs. That's why you see they were given the Ward Development Fund, but MCAs and MPs should, their core role is oversight and legislation. Okay. That is what I wanted to see. The other thing that I wanted to see was issues to do with the other thing that I also feel like should have been expressly talked about was how we are going to now implement these changes. Are we going to are we going to maybe be very serious on not having a parliamentary capture and take it back to the people? Okay. Because you see the BBI report sat down 7,000 people, it sat down groups, religious groups, it sat down cadres and demographics, and now we want it to be taken back to the people. I don't think Kenyans can trust the parliamentarians to steer the process forward, so we feel like a popular initiative is going to be better.
All right, Muthoni, very briefly because we're running out of time. Yeah. Just give me a list. What would you have wanted to see?
Personally, what I wanted to see is on mentorship.
Just have the microphone.
Oh, yeah, thank you. So personally, what I wanted to see is on mentorship, on leadership. This is very key because we need to know who we are going to pass the next baton to. Yeah. Another thing that I feel like is also missing, it's the BBI is very elaborate on issues, matters of leadership, and the cabinet, how it's going to be formed, blah, 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 and leadership positions, how they're going to be divided. Okay. But I feel personally on these other issues concerning the people on the ground, it's not very elaborate on that. It has not given much emphasis on it. Okay. Also, another thing is that I would have wanted to see is implementation. I think that's the key word. We have very great laws, as I had stated initially.
Yeah.
We have very great laws. We just need to see a proper strategy on this, the execution of the same.
Okay.
And another thing also that my dear friend here, Agnes, has stated is the issue about the referendum. I think I don't want to already say that it was a move, that it was already something created to avoid having the referendum because they knew it would have failed. I don't want to say that, but I've said it. But the thing is, the referendum is very key because it will give people a voice to echo what they want.
Okay.
If we are not for it, if you're pro, if you're against, if whatever you personally feel, I think people should be given the power to decide.
All right.
Yeah.
Nathaniel, very briefly.
Yes, briefly. Other than creating the Department of Happiness and Wellness and Mental Health, and also converting Boxing Day into Cultural Day, BBI also spent 64 million on every page. I wish they could have given the ANC Youth League 64 million only. We would have done a better document.
Where did you get that fact from?
Because they spent 10 billion.
159
10 billion divided by 156.
I was with Dr. Kimani yesterday, and he said that there's nowhere close to 10 billion.
Now
so now it's a push and pull. They are the ones who are in there. They say they did not spend that kind of money.
When the president was addressing the National Assembly in the last the State of the Nation address, he allocated 10 billion for the reconciliation programs, and basically that went to BBI. I wish they would have given the UNC Youth League that money. We would have done a better job. Now, these are the list that I want to see quickly. Number one, BBI should have borrowed from the best practices, like from the Nordics country where I was in Denmark, in Copenhagen. Unemployment is at 3% at its lowest. They should have ensured that we create employment centers for the young people across the country, where the government links young people to job opportunities. And once you submit your resume to the employment center, and a government finds you an opportunity and you don't have the requisite skills, at the expense of the state, they should upgrade your skills. I should have seen the help loan converted into a grant, and all the previous debts should be cleared, because help loan is a gift for having worked hard in high school. Now, I should have seen a third of the national cabinet going to the young people, and a third to the women. I also would have liked to see a third of the deputy governor, deputy governors, or even the governors, and also a third of the county executive committee members, a third of the chief officers going directly to the young people. I should have also seen the youth fund being directly devolved by amending the 4th schedule of the Constitution to say youth is an exclusively devolved function to be performed by the county governments, with the policy making remaining with the national level. I'd like to see the last two ones. I would like to see the BBI report to have recommended that the 0.3% that is allocated in the national constitution to be appropriated to the political parties fund, the national treasury should comply, so that political parties like mine, ANC, should have a better voice. And lastly, the 35% that they allocated to the county government, it is a good thing, and that's the only thing that I support. However, on that thing, if you look at Article 2 or 3 of the current constitution, they say that the current 15% is allocated on the basis of the recent audited revenue. And the Parliamentary Account Committee has been dragging its feet in auditing the revenues. The BBI should have said 35% of the previous ordinary revenue raised nationally in the preceding financial year, not the last audited, because we know the government drags its feet. Finally, I want to say that going forward, as a party, we are going to form a formidable opposition. And we are
Livingston, that cannot fly. Livingston, go ahead. Very briefly. Kidogo ungependa kuona nini?
Okay, the main thing is
mbio kabisa.
For county government, ningependa kuona wakuje na kitu kama youth fund, sio kukuja na hii biashara ya sijui nini na nini, because nimeona sijui lazima sijui kuja na youth group, sijui wa train. So wangekuja na kitu kama loan ya vijana kwa county government. Alafu then kitu kingine tena historia loan, because vijana wengi wanatoka shule alafu wanaanza kulipa loan, waangalie venye wanaweza tolewa CRB ndio wapate venye wanaweza jisaidia huko mbele. Alafu then mambo ya political parties, ningependa kuona kitu cha kwanza kwa grassroots isimamiwe na IBC, ndio at least create ile environment ya vijana kuvai. Ni hayo tu. Alafu then nyingine ya mwisho, vijana tuko 70%, na wale wameandikwa, wale wako job ni 70%, na wale wameandikwa wale wako job either ni 20 ama 10. So hakuna wenza create peace kama watu 20 wako kazi na wale 70. So vijana wako wangi. Alafu then tena ya mwisho, hii ni last. Hakuna venye uwezi niambia watu wanaiba bilioni, alafu then unasema unataka peace, haiwezekani. So lazima tuone wameshikwa.
All right. Wanja, I'm really running out of time here, very briefly.
Thank you very much, Trevor. First thing, I would have loved to see the attempt to talk about gender-based violence, women's rights. I would have seen them actively saying how safe spaces, shelter houses for women, because they're always saying women should not be beaten, but they are not telling those who are beaten where to go. And I've been interested to hear more about, they talked about the hardware and the software. So maybe our problem is not systems or offices or which document, but really our national psyche, because it's messed up. Whenever you ask something, they say, you know, this is Kenya, you know, this is Kenya, as if our default settings are to be corrupt. Of course, I would have been keen on seeing issues like justice and historical grievances. Sometimes justice is not only done, but seen to be done. Shiko talked about issues like people who suffered in the post-election violence. Is it enough to tell them forgive and move forward? Maybe not. Reparations, you saw how they went around in Rwanda. Some people are even told build houses, build roads, punishment, community service. So those are there are still some touchy issues. And Trevor, let me say this. A person, and it's a proverb, they say that a person whose stomach is full does not understand the severity of hunger and famine. In this country, there are still people who feel less Kenyans, and even in that document, they are saying some people feel like they are not Kenyan. And we've even had people who used to say, have you gone to Kenya, when they mean Nairobi? So issues like inclusivity, issues like, maybe just a quick one, and issues like political hygiene. And I remember it was mentioned when people went to Sagana. And we are also saying, the way the president saying that, wacha politicians wapigane, sababu hata wanaenda Nairobi hospital. If indeed these are political processes that have led us to this discussion, we are appealing, we are telling our politicians, we are tired of this fatigue of putting us running all over because of their political interest. We are fatigued. Thank you, Trevor.
Very briefly, because of time.
I will start by saying, what I really wanted to see is us being part of the process and not being included at the implementation process, because this is what has always happened. Second, where young people are right now is where the women of this nation were in 80s and the 90s. I would have wanted to see more done to make sure that the youth are on the table, the youth issues are being discussed extensively, that our position, just like they're saying those of women are guaranteed, that our positions are guaranteed. And most of all, Trevor, I would have wished to see Wananchi dance the same way Raila and Uhuru danced on that table. Being that, yes, we are satisfied and we know this is the way we move forward. But unless we can address these issues, I still feel sorry for my people.
By a show of hands, how many of you here gave those recommendations to the BBI? 3
people.
Only the 2 of you. So a whole year, where were you guys?
A whole year we were trying to submit. A whole year we never knew. Yes, that is the truth. A whole year.
All right. That's a conversation. That's a conversation for another day. But when the channels are open, there's an idea that the youth should bring up their recommendations at that particular point. Let's see what you're saying online. Let's bring them up and see what you're saying. Tom Lwangu says youths have to stand up and claim their space. It is sad that from the onset, the BBI has demonstrated exclusion to have the youth on the table. Let's see what else you're saying here. Tubula says Kenyans are insatiable to these political amusements thrown their way every now and then. Political class are cause of all this mess. They can't be the solution providers. Chapter 6 of the Constitution has been choked to death. Lenas Sikuku says the panel needs to understand that BBI is not about politics alone. They sound like they haven't gone through that report. BBI has so much to offer to Kenyans. It's all about unifying Kenyans and not the politicians. Omo Godfrey says BBI lacked experts and therefore just drafted down Kenyans' challenges with no solutions. Youth have been neglected, starting with the current government going by their recent appointments. Let's see what you're saying on 22422. Before we get to that, we have D1 56 says the inaugural objective of the BBI was to set off a national conversation. I'm happy that we are all talking, whether claimant critique or nascent extolment of the current draft. I believe that the contribution would be ameliorate. It continues to say, for once, we have been given a chance to be heard. Let's make it count by coming out loud to have our voices heard. Let's see what else you're saying here. Lena Sikuku again say we need to stop depending on our incompetent leaders to get things done. Maybe it's time to start doing things on our own. For example, the issue of uniting Kenyans. We don't need the leaders to unite us. It starts from our own homes and individual levels. Gashene K says peace is an actualization of sovereign economic sustenance of every man and woman to feed and clothe their family regardless of age group, not a political agreement of leaders. Etiang says this 156 pages needs time for all of us to read well and analyze. Let's not rush on things and speculate things here and there. As Kenyans, let's take our time. Nuri Faiz says BBI report is supposed to bring inclusivity and transparency, yet Wanjiku Mora have not read the report, but others already have. Mwakenya, where are the Swahili free copies? Wams Kenya says, interesting, I see younger generations pushing for space within the overall decision-making process. Do not relent, stay on point. The future is now. Critical omission in the BBI is the missing how. Achiendod says, as much as the youth are fighting for their deserved space, the point should not be anchored on hate for particular personalities. The points should be stipulated soberly. Hate ruins the splendid ideas. All right, thank you all for making time. That is all the time we have for now. It's 156 pages. It's a national conversation. I'm sure we'll be back at it again. Read it. We'd like to hear your views as well in the run-up to the final discussion, which is coming up next year. All right, for now we take a short break. I'm Trevor Mbija. See you in just a bit. And Muthoni Mburu is up next with Web Wars.